you a quick overview and history of Just Move It, so you can understand where it's coming from, or where it came from and where it's going. So I'll go ahead and start. So with Just Move It, you can see this logo is written in both English and in French. In 2012, actually in 2010, we were approached by Health Canada, and they wanted to join in this campaign that we've been doing here in the United States since 2004. And so they joined up in 2012 officially, and so you see the logos below. Just Move It is made possible because of a partnership with the Healthy Native Communities Partnership, the Health Promotion, the Indian Health Service Health Promotion Disease Prevention Program, the Assembly of First Nations, the Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami, and the National Aboriginal Diabetes Association. So all these partners that we have here are helping to make Just Move It happen. So just a quick intro to our partners. And Just Move It started actually in 20 communities on the Navajo Nation, and it started back in 1993. So in 1993, before 1993, here on the Navajo Nation, in our local communities around Shiprock, New Mexico, the only type of events you saw happening in our communities were events where they were competitive. It was all about being the fastest. It was about winning prizes, and there was also registration fees that people needed to pay to participate. And here in our communities, our local health promotion program, they wanted to do something that would get an entire community moving, not just having families come to watch an athlete participate in a competitive event. They wanted the whole family to come and participate. So they partnered with the local Department of Youth program, the Tribal Department of Youth program, and both groups started Just Move It back in 1993. So it became a series of non-competitive runs and walks. The events targeted families and communities. All the events were held in local chapter communities. So they weren't just held in the big cities of like Shiprock or Window Rock or Chinle, Arizona. They were held in the small local communities on the Navajo Nation. And then everyone who participated got a free t-shirt. So back in 1993, Just Move It started out with 20 communities on the Navajo Nation, and they had 482 walkers and runners who came out. So grandmas, grandpas, aunties, uncles, moms, dads, kids, everybody came out to participate, and it ended up becoming this huge thing that still continues today. So last year on the Navajo Nation, we had 2014, in 2014 on the Navajo Nation, we had about, I think, 130 to 140 events on the Navajo Nation. How many participants do you think we had here on the Navajo Nation 2014? I know you won't be able to shout out your answer, but go ahead and write that down. Put down a number that helps you to commit and think about how many participants were there on the Navajo Nation in 2014. Okay, well, I'm going to show you the answer now. There were 38,258 participants who participated in Just Move It last year on the Navajo Nation. So remember, we started out with 482 participants, and now we're up to 38,258. So that took a lot of effort from all sorts of programs here on the Navajo Nation. We had a lot of the tribal programs, we had a lot of the Indian Health Service programs, and then local community groups, and then the local chapter communities who all helped to make it happen and still continue to make it happen. A lot of work goes into making these events happen. So I know in your own communities you are doing similar things where you're partnering with organizations and groups to provide physical activity events in your community. It'd be cool to hear about all the great work that you're all doing in your communities, just like you're hearing about the Navajo Nation events. And back in, and then just to show you in 2015 here this year, this is the schedule for Just Move It. On the right-hand side, you see the Navajo Nation schedule for this year from May, June, July, May, June, and July. Pretty much every day you'll see an event is happening. On the left side of your screen, I blew up the date for tonight, for June 30th. You see there are 4 events happening this evening here on the Navajo Nation. So you can't say there's nothing happening on the Navajo Nation. There are tons of things happening, and I just wanted to share that with you. So again, I was telling you, Just Move It is growing. In '93, we started out with 20 communities and had 482 participants. In 1996, we expanded Navajo nationwide, and we started with 51 communities, and we had a total of 1,406 communities or participants. And then last year, we had 38,258 participants. So this year, Just Move It is 23 years old. And you see the numbers have grown. Back in 2005, the IHS Indian Health Director at the time was Charles Grimm. He brought together a group of tribal leaders to do a visioning session around the IHS Prevention Initiative, and he wanted them to figure out a way to spread prevention out in our communities. And these tribal leaders had a lot of positive things that they wanted to see happen in our communities. They wanted to see kids healthy. They wanted to see families healthy. They wanted to see people moving. They wanted to see positive things happening in the community. And fortunately, around that time, we connected with that group and were able to share the work that was happening here on the Navajo Nation. And they really liked it, and they said, you know what, you guys need to do that, but do it nationwide for all tribes, but figure it out. Figure out how you're going to make that happen. And so what we ended up doing was coming up with this website. It's called justmoveit.org. It's a place for communities and programs to share what they're doing in their communities to get people moving. So it's a national campaign to promote physical activity for American Indians and Alaska Natives. It's a network that brings together the good things already happening in your communities. Just like I was saying, there's a lot of things that you're already doing in your communities, but not everyone gets to know about it. So the Just Move It website is a place for you to share those stories. And once you get off this webinar, you can go there to visit the website. So in January 2005, that's when we started the website and got things rolling. And when you go to the Just Move It website, you'll see a map. And all those red dots on the map represent Just Move It partners all across the United States. I just have a few pictures there featuring several programs. There's this one here in Port Angeles, Washington. The picture is on the left-hand side. You'll see that they had this event called Paddle to Hawaii, where they had participants sign up as a team, and they each had a little canoe, and those little canoes that they made represented how many minutes of physical activity their group did. And at the end of their series, they were able to celebrate by having a luau to celebrate everybody's accomplishment. You can see the Powwow Trail Walk Run in Flandreau, South Dakota, that picture right in the center. Way up north, you see they had a Just Move It community walk in Circle Village, Alaska. So there's a lot of things happening out there, and this Just Move It website is a place for people to share, again, what they're doing in their communities. And the thing with the Just Move It website is we're moving from an expert model to a network model. What we want to do is just provide a place for people to share and learn from each other. We want to provide this place for them to share what they're doing, and then in turn learn about what other tribes are doing in their communities. And then we also know there's this importance of the Native brand, of who we are as Native people, and how we are making a difference in our communities to get people healthy. So just its impact, we've seen a lot of awareness. We've seen personal impact stories. Gives groups a sense of belonging, and so sharing their stories and then adapting their stories. And here again on the Just Move It map, you see a few years ago I did a presentation and there were some Canadian people there and they said, hey, why is Canada all covered up? And they want to make that, we want to join, we want to be a part of this. We have Native people here in Canada. And so that involved having Just Move It partner with Canada. So again, the website is justmoveit.org. If you visit the web again on the right-hand side, you'll see an example of what the website looks like. Again, you can share your stories, your learnings, your plans and tools there on the website. And if you need any help with that, you're welcome to email me. There's a contact information page there on the website if you want to reach out to me. And now the map represents, again, not just the United States, but Canada. We have a lot of partners up in Canada. We have a bunch of stories about all these cool things that are happening out there. We have groups doing yoga in freezing weather. We have ice hockey happening there for youth. And then a lot of other things are happening in our communities. So again, every year for Just Move It, we have a Just Move It Day. This year will be the 12th annual. It'll be on October 21st, 2015. For the past 12 years, we've been partnering with the National Congress of American Indians. So their convention this year is going to be in San Diego, California. So what we do every year is we encourage communities to organize their own Just Move It Day events. It can be on the 21st or it can be anytime before or after. We know that sometimes that day might not work out perfectly, but what we want to do is encourage you to organize something in your communities and then in turn come back to the Just Move It website to share a story about what you did. Here's an example of a flyer we used last year. Again, we give people a range of when they can participate and give them some ideas and then just ask them to share their story. So, it is 2015. In 1993, when Just Move It began, we had 20 communities and 482 participants who came out to all these events. And you see in the right-hand column, the community called Burnham. It's the 5th community down. It's called Burnham. We had nobody show up to that event. And the one right above it, it says Upper Fruitland. We had 9 people who showed up to that event. If we gave up at that time and said, you know what, there aren't that many people showing up, we would be nowhere near where we are at now as far as Just Move It and as far as all the great work that's happening, not just here on the Navajo Nation, but all over the country. And we're hoping that you all will be sharing your stories so that you can learn more about what's happening out there. I know a lot of times in our communities, we hear more of the negative stuff about our communities and not so much of the positive. And Just Move It is a great way or a great place for you to share your stories about all the cool things that are happening in your community. And it's also a great way to learn from others. We had one diabetes program out of Flandreau, South Dakota, shared a story about how they decided not to give out incentives like T-shirts or water bottles. What they wanted to do, they wanted to get a little more creative and figure out another type of incentive. And what they ended up doing with one of their events was they had they gave out things that people wouldn't, I guess, things that money can't buy. And some of that had to do with tradition and culture. Some of the incentives were simple things as a small bag of steam corn. And what they did was they gave those out as incentives, but they also gave out some information about it and how it was significant to their culture and their tradition and about how to prepare it. They also gave out an abalone shell and I think sweetgrass. And again, they had teachings that went with that. The time they did that and used those as incentives, they said they had the most participants ever who participated in their events that time. And so, you know, you would have not known about that story if you didn't read about it on the Just Move It website or if you didn't know those that tribe or that diabetes program. But again, the Just Move It website is a place that we'd like for you to share your stories, and if you'd like help or you have questions on how to do that, please contact me. But again, visit justmoveit.org. And thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. And next is Erickson.
Alrighty. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much. As Josh said, my name is Camille Erickson. I am from the Bemidji Area Indian Health Service, working as the Health Promotion Disease Prevention Specialist. And I'm going to be talking about our Physical Activity Kit, or PAK. So just briefly, why it's so important. Trends in obesity and overweight are growing dramatically over the last 30 years especially, and especially in Indian country. If we look at adults alone, we can see that 81% are either overweight or obese. So that's 8 out of 10 people, which is pretty startling. But the real startling facts for us are how many obese or overweight children there are in Indian country. If we look at ages 6 to 11, 45% of these children are either overweight or obese. That 12 to 19 years of age is growing, so they're up to 51. And then as people are becoming adults, it is growing even further to 81%. And this data is a little bit old. It's from 2008. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to show you the most up-to-date, but it has continued to grow throughout the years. Of course, we all know there's lots of contributing factors to obesity. It's not just exercise and eating well. It's all of those different determinants of health. Health really starts where people live, learn, work, and play. It's all spectrums of our life. And the reality of it is all of this overweight and obesity is causing multiple diseases such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, pulmonary disease, cancers, all kinds of complications. Kind of whipping through this quickly, I apologize for that, but you can get this PowerPoint later on if you want to look in more detail. Of course, we all know that the use of physical activity can help fight cancer, especially those cancers listed on the left-hand side there of the slide, but reducing your weight by a little bit can also indirectly reduce the risk of all of those cancers listed on the right-hand side as well. So super important to be physically active. The Bemidji Area Health Promotion Team is a firm believer in the Physical Activity Kit. We've had the opportunity to travel around in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, training different tribal partners on the Physical Activity Kit, or PAK. It's based off of the best and promising practices to increase physical activity, and the goal is really just to get more American Indians and Alaskan Natives spending time in medium to high physical activity, and it's all across the lifespan, starting with infants up through elders. And basically what it is a package of books really that have been compiled and put together with all these really, really fun activities to get people moving and exercising, kind of without even knowing that they're exercising. They're really just playing and having fun. It came about through a collaboration from multiple different people putting their fingers in the pie. The Indian Health Service, New Mexico Prevention Research Center, lots of field partners testing it out. Different tribal partners all across the country helped to contribute different native-based activities. So it was a really great collaboration, and now we have this amazing resource available for everywhere. It can be used all over in every kind of setting. We've seen it used in schools, in communities, work sites, Head Start programs, elderly centers, youth programs. I've had participants tell me they've used it at birthday parties, youth group meetings, all kinds of it. Even in your work setting, you can use it to loosen people up in the middle of a business meeting. So very versatile. Like I said, it's all about getting people active throughout the lifespan. So here's kind of a breakdown of the 7 or 8 different books that come in the PAK kit. Book 1 is focused on young people, so that's our elementary age children. Book 2 is a challenge course. Book 3 is the Modified American Indian Games. Book 4 is exercise breaks, kind of like icebreakers. Book 5 is young children, so that's 6 months up through 4 years old. Book 6 is our adults and families activities. Book 7 is our older adults. And then Book 8 is just tons of resources that can help you be successful implementing PAK into your community. Now I kind of want to break down, just quickly go over a brief overview of all the different books so you can kind of get an understanding of the different activities that are available. So like I said, Book 1 is for young people. It's just full of interactive physical activities for school-age children, and it can be used in a classroom setting, in a group setting, in daycare, even in your house with your own kids. The activities are for individual children, they're for partners, you can do big group activities, also full of lots of different native dances, so it's a really great book for these kids. One of the first things that we do with this book is we do a round dance with the participants, and it's just a way of kind of introducing physical activity. What does it feel like to be physically active? So we'll have everyone do a round dance, and then we talk about what's actually going on in your body. What is a healthy reaction to physical activity? What should you be feeling? So we'll talk about having a warm face, a faster heartbeat, everything that's right there on the screen, and have the kids kind of come up with those reactions themselves, and then they know like it's healthy to feel this way, like sweat on my forehead from running around is a good thing. So learning that at a very young age is super important. Book 2 is our Mountain Pathways Challenge. It is a progression through 5 trails with increasing levels of physical activity, so it's kind of like a challenge course. It really emphasizes teamwork and leadership skills. Here are the different trails. It starts out with the yellow bead trail on the bottom there and ends with the green bead trail. And of course they get a little more difficult the higher up you go up the mountain. So for example here, I have the yellow bean trail, so it's kind of like an course set up in a circle. So, excuse me, the first little outpost is just arm circles, then you have jump turns, ski slaloms, flat tire, which is kind of like a slowed down push-up, basketball blast-offs, and then beanbag jacks. So you'll have your group split up. You're going to have them, you can do it in a large gymnasium, or even better, you can get everybody outside and doing outside, but you do need a pretty big space for this one. And you have each people run through each station, and then you'll have them do like a victory lap afterwards. So it gets people really moving, everybody sweating. You can make a challenge out of it, do it in teams, have people compete against each other. Book 3 is the Modified American Indian Games. And, got ahead of myself here. Okay, so they are all games that have been modified a little bit from their original version, mainly just to maximize participation and encourage that moderate and vigorous physical activity, whilst also encouraging safety. The games are modeled after that Spark PE, which is all about getting students moving and reducing that sedentary time. So each game includes a brief instruction. It tells you all the equipment that you're going to need and the space that you need for the games, and then it gives you all your teaching cues. So it really breaks it down, makes it easy. You can literally take this book, read the instructions, and be able to lead that game. So it's really great. A lot of the games have diagrams as well, so you can see how the game's actually set up. Some of my favorites are just getting people into groups. So you can see in the pictures there, everybody's usually laughing and having a good time. The games that's getting shown right there is where you shout out a number and a body part, and the people have to get into that number of people and also touch together those body parts. So everybody's running around and having a good time and giggling. The participants, whether it be kids or adults, everybody has a good time with these games. Book 6 is our exercise breaks and icebreakers. These are really great if you want to energize, motivate people, just kind of get them up and get them moving. I especially like them as icebreakers if you have a new group of people who don't know each other. Everybody's a little shy, they might be quiet. This is a way to kind of create that positive group atmosphere to help people relax, break down any of those barriers, kind of bring out that inner child in themselves. One of my favorite ones is Have You Ever? And you're going to really just get people set up in a circle. I've seen it done with chairs. You can do it just standing. And basically one person starts in the middle. You shout out, have you ever? And it can be anything. Like, for example, on that screen there, it says insert a physical activity. So if I was in the middle, I could say, have you ever run a 5K? Or have you ever run in a Just Move It event? And everyone who had done that would then run into the center and have to switch positions with somebody else. There's always going to be one person left over, and then they would start the next activity. So that one's really fun. It gets people moving. Also, as a bonus, you get to know each other a little bit better than you started with. Moving right along, book 5 is our young children book. So again, that's 6 months old up through our 4 years of age, so kind of that Head Start age. This book has been in high demand. Actually, it's been modified from its original version because it was in such high demand. And there are literally now hundreds of games and activities that can be used. And it's really great because it breaks it down by each of those age groups. Obviously, you're going to have different activities for a 6-month-old than you are for a 5-year-old. But they're really fun getting kids to use their imagination while they're participating in physical activities. So one example would be doing animal walks. And so you can see those two examples there on the bottom. We have the bear walk and the kangaroo hop. But really, the possibilities are endless. And when I'm doing this one, especially with kids, because they have such great imaginations, I like to have them show me what the animal walks look like. And we've gotten some really ingenious demonstrations by the kids. So that one's always a fun one. And you kind of just play follow the leader with them, get them to wander around. Obviously, keeping in mind safety and boundaries and everything. Book 6 is our adults and families. It's really just full of lots of activities that can be done with the family or also in community events. And it's really all about integrating physical activity into everyday life. So we see these activities being used a lot in health fairs or school events, or like I said before, even birthday parties. It's really great. It kind of compiles everything you need to know to set up an event, like from start to finish. How are you going to incorporate marketing? How are you going to get the information out there? What are you going to need exactly? So it's really great. And if you ever have to run an event, it might be very helpful to take a gander at this book especially. One example would be the Pathways Great Race. It's based off of a Lakota story. And really great, you get the whole stories in there so you can share that. I won't give you all the details. I'll let you enjoy reading it for yourself. But it's a really great story to share with your participants and kind of get them motivated. It really talks about self-talk, which is really important, especially if you're running a race. So getting participants to only do positive self-talk while they're exercising and kind of cheering themselves on rather than being like, oh gosh, I can't do this, I can't run this far, I don't like doing this. Turning that around and giving themselves that positive self-talk, which is very important, especially when exercising. Finally, or almost finally, book 7 is our older adults book. These are physical activities from the Healthy Body Awareness Program, which is actually based off of physical activity and nutrition education program for the Navajo elders. So it's based off of those guidelines of 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity aerobic activity that those elders should be receiving. And it's really great because all of the activities can be modified. They can sit in a chair if they need to. They can hold onto the back of the chair for balance. They can be standing. It really is super easy to modify all the activities to their abilities, really. And it gives you warm-up examples. They have cardiovascular exercises, strengths, and then also cool-down exercises and flexibility. So really great to be used for lots of different purposes. I just want to give you some quick examples. So these are the first one would be a cardio exercise, and that one would be standing, or you could do it sitting in a chair, and you're just going to lift your one knee up, hold it for 5 seconds, place it back, put your foot back on the ground, and then you're repeating with the other knee, hold it up for 5 seconds, replace, and then you would continue that for 2 minutes. So it ends up being a cardiovascular activity. The next one in the middle there, we can see the woman has her hands at her side, and she's lifting her palms up, holding it for 5 seconds, then bring them back down. Now it becomes strength when you add a little bit of resistance, if they're able to, depending on shoulder abilities. But she, in her hands, she has just frisbees. You could also use water bottles or pretty much anything. You really can get imaginative with any of these activities to add a little bit more strength. And then our final one would be an example of flexibility. So we have the gentleman dropping his head down to his shoulder, rolling his neck slowly to the other side, and then back to the same position that it was in before. This one you want to be careful that his head never drops back, because of course we always want to protect the neck. Finally, we have our book 8, which is our PAK Resources. So this is full of all different tons of resources, websites, train the trainer programs. It gives you action plans, evaluations you could use for your program, a physical assessment you could use for your programs as well. These are just a couple of them. That first link there is actually to the National HPDP PAK website, and you can see videos on PAK. You can also download all of the books absolutely free. So that's what's also really great about PAK, is that it's 100% free. All the information's out there. You can use it in your communities, and you don't have to pay a dime for it. So it's really great. There's also the Let's Move in Indian Country initiative, and then just the Health Promotion Disease Prevention website in general. Lots of good information on how to get your communities moving. With it, this is what some of our participants have been saying about their PAK training so far. We, across the Bemidji area, which is Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Chicago, we've had really great, it's been really received greatly. All the communities are really excited and pumped, especially because all of the activities and games do have that native focus, which isn't something that they always do with these kind of trainings. It's been really, really well received. We're really excited about it. Here in the next slide, here's a couple of the different teams that have gone through the training so far. So if you ever wanted to reach out to them and check in, see how they like it, see how they're using it, then feel more than welcome to do that as well. Also, if you are interested in becoming trained in PAK, you can definitely contact me, and we can see if we can set something up for you if you have a team that you'd like to get trained, or we can, if you're in the Bemidji area. Otherwise, I can definitely help you out finding a different person to get you trained as well. So there is my contact information if you would like to contact me. And with that, I kind of whizzed through it quite quickly. If you have any questions, I think we'll have time at the end. But with that, I think I'll pass it on to Kerri.
Thank you, Camille. Next up is Kerri Lopez, and then we'll have a short question and answer.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kerri Lopez from the Portland Area Indian Health Board. I feel like this was kind of a good closer for the presentations we've heard today. I'm going to talk a little bit about an event that we've been doing here in the Northwest. We're about to do our Nike Native Fitness 12 that this year is going to be in September. So I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of background. So like I said, we've been doing it for 12 years, and the idea actually came from a diabetes coordinator that worked for the Urban Indian program here, the Native American Rehabilitation Association. And we had talked about trying to do a fitness training. So I was new to the diabetes program here and went and did a little walkthrough out at Nike, and I met with Sam McCracken, who was the Native American Diabetes Business Coordinator at that point. So Sam and I kind of looked at each other, and I didn't really know about what Nike wanted, and he didn't really know about what data was going to do for Indians with diabetes. But we did a plan. We walked through. We went to the Lance Armstrong building, and we met the coordinator there, and she agreed that we needed to put something together. So there was an original committee. We got together with Indian Health Service, with the Native Wellness Institute, NARA, and then we had community representatives and my staff. So that's a very old picture. That is the actual committee from 12 years ago. So some of you out there may or may not recognize some of those folks, but they are all still working in Indian country today. We put together, this is kind of what the current agenda looks like, and I just want to illustrate here that it really is a true partnership. We coordinate the training. We have folks that come in. Sharon Stanfield's our tribal leader, diabetes committee representative. Joe's our executive director. We have had Daryl Tonemaw come every year. I said the only remaining items from the original training are me and Daryl. But Daryl comes in and does a great presentation on motivational interviewing, and he has changed it up every year. So every year evaluations say bring him back, we love him. Nike, of course, we do it out at the Nike World Headquarters, so mostly at the Tiger Woods Center. So Nike provides the facilities. The Native American Business Program always comes in and does an update on N7, on other new incentives, on their new grant program. They provide us with some equipment out there. And hopefully, again, this year they print the curriculum that we provide to folks who come to the training. In the last 8 years, we've worked with the Native American Fitness Council, and they do our sessions. And I just listed a few because also every year we kind of vary our sessions to keep it new. But examples are traditional games, a chair aerobics class, a running class, walking class, and then I have Spark, which is kind of in the last couple of years switched over to an SAQ training, strength, agility, and quickness. And then this year I think we're doing some fundamentals of basketball. We're going to do a nutrition class this year with a healthy cooking demonstration. So we're changing it up again a little bit this year. I just kind of want to give you the components because it is 2 days of extremely active, hands-on, get out and exercise. So we're really looking at trying to get folks to get in the sessions, to work with the trainers, to participate so that when you get home, you actually know what your workbook's saying. So there's the fitness training, and then we also have resources on program implementation and case management, data collection, tracking. So we're trying to get everyone up and moving, and trust me, it works. Last year, my wellness coordinator here at the board told me she couldn't walk after the second day, and she exercises. So the event, we try and mix it up, and I just kind of put some historic photos in here also. Last year, we had Tawny come in and talk with us. She's a basketball player and an N7 ambassador. And then the picture down on the right-hand corner, we actually one year had Noda Begay that came in as a guest speaker, and he was a surprise to the audience, so that was really fun. And again, Noda stayed in Indian country too. He has his foundation. So pictures from the event, there's Nellie up in the corner. She was the original idea, Nellie McConville, with the bandana on her head. And these are just different pictures. This is the strength and agility. We do fitness fundamentals, a running class. And I want to stress again, because I really do feel like the event is very active, but we're also trying to give our participants tools and resources that they walk away with. So this is just kind of an example of what we provide so that you have a flow sheet, and if you're using RPMS, there's a PCC overlay, the PARQ for working with your providers about fitness levels. So we really do try and provide some tools that are going to help you when you walk away and go home and do the Native Fitness curriculum. A little idea, Native Fitness 1, which was like I said, 12 years ago, we had 74 participants, mostly folks here from the Northwest and a few from the national program, and then Native Fitness 10 and 11. 10 was our biggest so far. We had 200 folks, and then last year we had 185. So we have truly grown over the years. And I meant to put in here, we do an evaluation and ask about every single component. So last year we had 99.9% that said the training was excellent and they would use it, and we had a 0.1% that said somewhat. So we have to find that somewhat person and change their mind. The other thing we do is we always get some return folks. So last year we had 65% of participants that said they'd been back, and they kind of span the years. And then out of that 65, 70% said that they started or changed a fitness program as a result of Native Fitness. So we think we're reaching out. We think folks are liking it and coming back. Here's a link to our training this year. That's the picture from last year. So this year it's a little bit later, September 1st and 2nd. It's out at the Nike World headquarters in Beaverton. I put a link up where people can go in and register and pull up the agenda and look at the actual components that we're offering this year. So I'm hoping that we reach some folks today, and you go check us out. I'm going to send Josh our registration form also so that National Native Network has it. And then I always like to close with stuff that my tribes here in the Northwest are doing, and I work with diabetes and cancer both. So this is I think a lot of times we hear some of the doom and gloom and some of the statistics, and they're very real. But I think it's also important to look at what we've done in our communities. So these are all different programs that our tribes here in the Northwest have done related to fitness. And there's my contact information. So short and sweet, my advertisement for Nike, for our Native Fitness at Nike. And I hope we get some folks to register.
Thank you, Kerri. We have a question here in the question box. If anyone else has questions, there is a box on the side navigation bar. You can type them in. I have a question. Do you have an example of the evaluation that was used? And I think that was, I don't know what it was right.
I'm sorry,
So do you have any
question,
examples
Josh? I didn't
of,
hear.
oh, sorry, Kerri. So how do you evaluate your programs? And if you have any examples of what you do?
Well, I mean, I can answer what I do. This is Kerri talking about Native Fitness. We just go through and use a Likert scale and evaluate each of the components on the agenda. And then again, kind of ask overall if the training's helpful. And our big thing is wanting to know if they take our information and have changed anything for our returning folks. So we put together a evaluation tool here looking at our own training.
This is Camille from IHS again. For the PAK, we evaluate the participants the second day of the training to see what they thought of the actual training. And then we also contact them 3 months after the training to see if they've actually implemented, how they're using it, what was most effective after they've had some time to kind of see everything and go back to their normal routine and really apply it to their lives.
And then this is Shelley Frazier. For Just Move It, what we do is we want to know what type of stories are shared, what is the topic of the stories, and then also where are the stories coming from, and then the frequency of stories. So again, our whole thing is about encouraging programs and communities to share their stories. And so that's what we're tracking. And then also in our work with the Healthy Native Communities Partnership, if you all are needing help with evaluation, we can help you with that. We also had an individual who, a young Native woman who is working on her doctorate program, who is wanting to reach out to Native programs. She's wanting to ask groups, how are they evaluating their programs? Just exactly that question that was asked.
Thank you, everybody. We'll give it another minute or two to see if any more questions come in. And while we're waiting, I will mention that all the attendees will be receiving a follow-up survey sometime tomorrow with some other information, the PowerPoint slides, all of that. Right. Not seeing any questions coming up. I think we'll wrap it up here. I'd like to thank the presenters and all of the attendees. This webinar will be posted on YouTube at some point if you'd like to rewatch it. And again, follow-up survey with information, PowerPoint, and such will be coming out tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hope I see you out in Beaverton, Oregon.
Thank you.